Hello and welcome to the Baller Sports Dialogue Podcast. It's your co-host Brandon Deutsch and Grant Mona. We got a new setup here. We have the logo in the back, and it's great. And we're going to talk some basketball. We took
New look. How about that?
new look. We took a little bit of a break, but we're here with some advanced stats, some post Super Bowl stuff, all locked in on the NBA. All right, so let's start with a team that I think a lot of people are. It's a polarizing team for multiple reasons. We usually start with them. The biggest brand and possibly in American sports, the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I know you don't love to talk about the Lakers.
No, I love to talk about anything.
I feel like this team more so than just the brand, a very interesting team because some nights they look like they can do anything offensively, and that like we saw against the Pelicans, and then the night before, I know they didn't have D'Angelo Russell, which turned out to be huge. But they didn't play well. Let's be real. They in big moments they didn't play well against the Nuggets. They haven't. And Nuggets are like their kryptonite.
They've won. The Nuggets won 7 straight
against them, right? So if they were to play in a series, I mean, come on. I mean, no one would even bet on the Lakers. Nobody would even think twice about it. But at the end of the day, I think the Lakers are good enough. Even though we've seen, it's a pretty substantial sample size now. Look, none of their offensive, defensive, or any metrics, effective field goal percentage, true shooting percentage, none of them jump off of the chart. A lot of it is middle of the pack. I think their EFG might be top 10 actually. Let me look right now.
I mean, if their offensive rating is still 20th, it was worse though. So they're getting better. Defensive rating is 14th, was the middle of the pack. But if you look at some of the top teams in the West, the Nuggets are 12th, the Clippers are like 13th, 11th. So the Lakers are they're sustaining something here. Like they're staying afloat enough, and we just went through the trade deadline and nobody moved. Like nobody, not even Jackson Hayes, not even Christian Wood. So they have the same team. If they just stay afloat and hang around the 6 through 8, I'm just saying.
There's a few stats I think are promising, and it's the true shooting percentage, which is 8th in the NBA. Okay, it's at 59.2%, 8th in the NBA is their true shooting percentage. If you look at their 3-point percentage, 36.8, 15th in the NBA, better than recent Laker teams. If you give LeBron historically a top 15 top 15 3-point shooting percentage team, if you give it to LeBron, well, hold on. If you give LeBron a 3-point shooting team that's ranked in the top 15, they're going to do well. Yeah. They're going to do something.
LeBron has always thrived with shooters around him. Like we know that.
Look, they just signed Spencer Dinwiddie. I know he's having a down year, but he's another ball handler that they can have off of the bench, and that's some depth. At the end of the day, is he better than Skylar Mays? Yes. So therefore,
and Christie's out for a little.
bit, and they're going to get Cam Reddish back. And I know a lot of Laker fans do not want to see him on the court, but he's important because he does play defense, and there is some shooting upside with him. Gabe Vincent's going to be important too, but a lot of things are moving in the right direction, and regardless of their stats, they have the core, and we saw that against the Pelicans, we saw that against the Celtics without LeBron and AD, to at least win a series against a more inexperienced team like Minnesota or the Thunder.
I agree. Right? Yeah, and here's the thing with the Lakers. I don't think it was ever the roster construction with this team. I think it was just playing the right players and the players playing up to their potential. Before the season, what did we say about the Lakers? That they had one of the deepest rosters in the league. They had an excellent offseason. And guys just haven't performed. Taurean Prince is one of the main guys that was like 40% from 3. Everyone else, Gabe Vincent, we haven't even seen Gabe Vincent yet. So if you get him back, it's kind of like a trade deadline move. Like you're getting a guy after the trade deadline, and you're looking at guards anyways. You're looking at DeJounte Murray. You were looking at other guards. You get a guard back like that, and Gabe Vincent has been proven in the playoffs to be very good. So for the Lakers, you beat the Celtics without LeBron and AD because you were playing a certain type of basketball. You beat the Pelicans because you played a certain type of basketball. The Clippers couldn't even beat the Pelicans because they just don't match up well with them. The Lakers, this is the main reason why I have not counted out the Lakers, is because they have the size and physicality to match up with the top in the league. They beat the Celtics, a lot of physicality. The Pelicans, a lot of physicality, a lot of size. Denver, a lot of physicality. I know the Lakers lost, but they only lost by what,
and they
10
didn't
points?
Have D'Angelo Russell.
And exactly, and they didn't have the shooting that D'Angelo Russell has been providing. I always said this as well. Why would you trade D'Angelo Russell for DeJounte Murray when D'Angelo Russell is putting up the same numbers, if not better, than DeJounte Murray right now offensively? Sure, you can say the defensively part, but and the other thing is that Jared Vanderbilt's hurt, so we're going to see when he comes back. If he comes back healthy before the playoffs, I don't know. Defensively is where I'm kind of concerned because the matchup wise, I don't like their guard defense. Some of their wing, like Vanderbilt, was a perfect guy to throw at Aaron Gordon and
100%. Yeah.
Brandon Ingram. You don't have that anymore, and we'll see. But for the Lakers, for me, it has always never been about the roster construction. It's about who's in the lineup, who is Darvin Ham playing,
Yeah.
and these guys playing up to that potential. And now they are.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell's playing like he should be. Torian Prince is shooting the lights out again. LeBron and AD, we don't have to worry about them. Austin Reeves' scoring has shot up. Everyone's stepping up right now.
So I'm going to go as far as say this. As long as no one else gets hurt, with or without Vanderbilt, I'll even say this. Give me LeBron over the Timberwolves. Give me LeBron over the Thunder. Give me LeBron over the Suns. And give me LeBron over, who else is even in the Kings? For sure. Give me LeBron over the Mavericks even though I like
Over
the
Luka?
Mavericks. That's a tougher matchup. But what I'm saying here is experience matters. We fail to realize that experience matters. The Timberwolves, first in defensive rating, we'll get into them. They are not going to win the championship this year. They're just not. They have Rudy Gobert, who's a notorious choker in the playoffs, even though his regular season numbers in his career, excellent. No one's disputing that. In the playoffs, he has not performed well. Part of the Jazz problem, they were ranked first in offense one year and first in defense in one year, and they choked to the Clippers, who were undermanned. And a big part of that was Rudy Gobert. And at the end of the day, I'm not saying it's solely on him because Anthony Edwards is excellent, but we don't tend to see guys start their prime and start, beating the juggernauts.
Yeah.
We're not going to see this break off from like Steph, LeBron, Jokic. I mean, we're already seeing Jokic, Giannis, Luka, but I feel like Edwards hasn't entered that conversation quite yet. I don't think he's ready. I think he needs a few more playoff appearances to be ready. And I think the Timberwolves are a first-round exit this year, even if they're the 1 seed. I really do, especially if they draw the Lakers.
So is that, do you think that's, because their defense is ranked number 1, defensive rating-wise, aren't they?
They're first. They're first, yeah.
Their crunch time offense and their fourth quarter offense is really bad. It's still bad. They don't know who to give it to down the stretch. And that's what I've seen in a majority of their games. I don't know if that's fixable. Yeah, sure, you can say, okay, we'll just give it to Edwards in the playoffs. Even Anthony Edwards in stretches this year has not been dominant down the stretch.
Well, I trust him in the playoffs. There's another person I don't trust on their team that shouldn't have been named an All-Star, and we'll call a spade a spade. I'm not trying to come after him, but he's been called soft like Sharman Towns for a reason. He has not stepped up in big games. I know he was celebrating the finals against the Grizzlies that one game. He ended up losing that series. Lost to the Lakers in the play-in. He played great in that game. Not
played bad against the Clippers.
But guess what? Down the stretch, how many shots did he hit in that game against the Lakers? Almost none, maybe one. And he was it was Edwards that was keeping him in the game. And though Edwards played really bad the first.
Played bad in that game.
In OT, he played great.
Played bad in that game.
He played great in OT, and Kyle Anderson was great. And they have guys. I'm not disputing that. And historically, you need a top 15 offense to win a championship. Denver was the first team since the 2016 Warriors to have a top, to not have a top 15 defense and win the NBA championship. But there are some things that numbers can't back up, and it's experience. You got to go with the eye test. I mean, it's experience. When games matter, LeBron stepped up. He's been there. He knows exactly where to be. The Lakers have been there. This whole roster has been there.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's not just LeBron anymore. Last year it was okay, it's just LeBron and AD. Well, now the whole roster has been there, and it's the same roster virtually. Dennis Schroeder is not there. I'm sorry. I don't care if they're 500 going into a series against Minnesota. I'm picking the Lakers, as good as Minnesota is. They have size to match up with, Towns and Gobert. They have defenders, even if Vanderbilt's out. They have some guys like Reddish that can go match up against Edwards or, McDaniels. Obviously, McDaniels is great, and he's a huge factor. They didn't have him against the Lakers. But I don't trust Minnesota. And if we go to the Thunder's kryptonite is the Lakers. If they play the Lakers, that's a terrible draw.
Yeah.
That's a terrible draw for them. They're young. They're inexperienced. They might be a year away, too. So when people are looking at the top of the West, I'm only putting Denver and the Clippers as serious contenders there that I know are kind of probably going to be in the top, either Western Conference Finals or top 4. To me, those are the only 2 guarantees, to win a first-round series. The West is so wide open. I don't trust the Kings, but they could win a series. I don't trust the Suns at all. I don't like their depth. I know they got a little better, but I still don't like their depth. But they have enough star power where they could win a series.
Yeah.
But the West is becoming so deep that you have to look at it regardless of record. Who are the superstars you trust in these series? LeBron. I'll trust the guys that I've seen it from. Now, I know there's always room for new legends to start taking place, and that will come. Shea will probably bring a championship to Oklahoma City. Edwards might get to the finals with the Timberwolves at some point, but it is still the LeBron, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, Jokic era. It has not even reached the Luka era yet. Those guys are all, except Giannis. What is Giannis, 27? 27? 27
Tatum's
plus.
entering that.
Tatum's entering that, but they haven't won yet.
And Tatum is...
They haven't won yet. And he's a big reason why they haven't won yet.
Yeah.
The only reason I think the Celtics win this year, if they do, is because of Porzingis. They didn't have a guy who could stretch the floor and dominate on both ends of the floor like that. He's a perfect fit. Versatility-wise, he's great. They should win it all, but I don't think it's going to be because of Jason Tatum, because we've seen what he's done in big moments, and same thing with Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown did not deserve to be an all-star. I'll call a spade a spade. Porzingis deserved to be the all-star, the second guy, if you were going to take a guy after Tatum. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think the thing with the Celtics is that, and you were right about everything in the West, I think that experience does matter. All the guys I've heard that talk about who they have as their favorites, and these are former players. I was listening to Rajon Rondo, Kevin Garnett. They said experience matters when you get down to it, and none of them had the Timberwolves or the Thunder. Sure, can the Timberwolves or Thunder win a first-round playoff series? I believe so. I know you don't, but I think they can win
can they?
one
of
round.
Course, of course.
Will they? Probably. I think one of them will win a first round, or maybe even get to the conference finals. Maybe. It's a big maybe. But experience matters. That's why the Clippers look at their roster. Harden, George, Kawhi, even Russ, even Norm Powell's he's a finals champion. They have experience. The Nuggets won it last year. The Lakers, they went to the Western Conference Finals last year, like you said, with largely the same core. All these, even the Mavericks, I'll give kind of an edge, because the Mavericks went to the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago.
Kyrie's won a championship.
Right, Kyrie's won a championship too. Same with the Celtics. I think that experience matters. This is why I have them over a lot of people. Oh, the Bucks, whatever. I don't trust Doc Rivers. I don't trust Damian Lillard. I sure as heck don't trust Pat Beverly nowadays. Their defense is a mess. If you look at the Cavaliers, they lost in the first round last year because the lights were too bright. I mean, even Jared Allen said
the Knicks are going to beat them again.
And the Knicks, they went to the playoffs last year. They were 2 games away from getting to the conference finals. They have experience. For the Celtics, like you said, Tatum is going to get his, and Brown is going to get his. There's a reason why they didn't get to the finals last year. They didn't have that third guy like Porzingis. Porzingis, I think, to me, and people are going to get mad at this because, they love their golden boys, Tatum and Brown. Porzingis is the key to that team winning a title.
100%.
Him and Drew Holiday,
100%.
people underrate that. We always talk about the 2 stars, the 2 wings, the 2 high-paid guys. If Porzingis and Drew Holiday don't show up, or if one of them's hurt, they're not going to get anywhere. And look, you can look at their stats.
First in offensive
rating, third in defensive rating, their net ratings first, they're 7th in three-point shooting. You're going to look at all those stats, fine, that's great. And this is why a lot of people don't trust the Clippers either. We need to see it when it's deep into the conference finals, when it's deep into May and June. I want to see it. And here's another thing that we didn't even mention. Porzingis has been injured here and there
most of his career.
This year too.
Yeah.
So we don't even know if he's going to be healthy for a stretch run for a month and a half. We don't know that with the Celtics. So I know that we like to get ahead of ourselves and say, these 2 teams are going to be in the conference finals.
Who's the other team? Because I have a
Cavs or Knicks.
I have a sleeper pick. I don't think it's going to be Milwaukee. In fact, I will guarantee you Milwaukee does not make the finals. I will guarantee you. I would put my life savings on it. I would. Because they have Doc Rivers.
They're 1-4.
1-5, 2-5. Well, they beat the Hornets by like 20. But I mean, if I could be a betting man, if I was betting on this season, my one bet would be Bucks. Anything you have not to make the finals, not to win. There is a 0% chance once they hire Doc Rivers. I would have given them a 12 to 15% chance to win it all with Adrian Griffin, who I thought did a great job. I don't understand why they got rid of him. Locker room. Yeah, but the players these days are just kind of soft.
Yeah,
like we kind of know. I mean, we're a product of this generation. We've been around people that have played the game and have been there, and it's just like kind of a soft culture for our age. I hate to say it. At the end of the day, it's the fact. Call a spade, like I've been saying. At the end of the day, I cannot, you can't tell me right now, I don't care that Giannis and Dame are on the team. Dame, some postseason success, but really, his team was not that good. Giannis, a lot of postseason success. Grayson Allen, losing him was huge. It's hard for me to admit that, but because of what he did in the playoffs last year. But he's been great, and they don't have Middleton, cool, but Middleton's been balding for the last 3 years. I mean, the guy's like 40. He looks like he's 45.
His injuries have caught up to him right after that finals run.
Probably because he looks like he's 50 and he's about 34. I think that's the big problem. Nothing against bald dudes, but I mean, that hairline's been regressing like his talent for the past 6 years. I mean, the past 3 years. I hate to say it. At the end of the day, he's not going to step up. I can't trust him in a playoff series. I mean, he might have. I mean, we got to start having the conversation. Middleton might have the worst contract in basketball, or at least up there. What is it, close to 50
Ben
million?
Simmons.
Well, yeah, that's who comes off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant scored 50 points the other day. But at the end of the day, like, we got to start having a conversation. They're capped all around. They can't get really great depth. They traded 4th, 2nd rounders or 5 for Jay Crowder, remember? And that's starting to become a trend. Like Royce O'Neal was like 3 second rounders, except they wanted a 1st rounder from the Lakers with the Lakers tax, which we'll get into in a sec. But at the end of the day, I will guarantee you guys Doc Rivers does not make the finals with the Bucks. It's going to be Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. It just is. Unless they run into the Heat and something goes wrong, like completely awry, they're going to be at least in the ECF. And the team right now that I'm looking at, that I'm like, can match them defensively, has a guy who has moxie who can just really take over. It doesn't even matter that Julius Randle is on their team. I think the Knicks right now would be my other pick in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they're fundamentally probably the second best team in the Eastern Conference because I haven't seen Embiid step up. I know he's been hurt. I know we always say that, but he's basically the Dak Prescott of basketball. He just is. He's a great regular season player. James Harden too, but James Harden's off the team. So now, what's the excuse going to be when Embiid chokes in the 1st or 2nd round? What's it going to be? If he's healthy, if he is back. Now again, injuries. Look, maybe it's unfair to say that Embiid hasn't had an excellent postseason career because of his injuries, and yeah, that's certainly into account. He hasn't been 100% in really any series since he had Jimmy Butler. And that series against Kawhi. I mean, that was like, 4 or 5 years ago?
That was 2019.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, he hasn't been 100% in a playoff series. So maybe it's unfair to say that, but you're telling me I can't trust just Maxey and Embiid.
I can't either.
Against a Knicks team that now added Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, who can play, OG, who can guard the opposing team's best player.
And Brunson
is turned into, I'm going to say it, no. More
superstar.
Brunson. At the end of the day, I agree. The way he's playing, I don't think I can name 5 players more more impactful to their team than Jalen Brunson right now. The guy can run circles around you whenever he wants. He's a tiny dude, but he has moxie and grit. Finds ways to get open. DiVincenzo's playing like a freaking star out of nowhere. He's had like 9 straight 20-plus point games. They have depth. They have everything you want from a team that could go to the finals. They could be the team that could be there this year. I know it's the Knicks, so we always have that, like the Cowboys, like that we have that asterisk on them. But they showed when a much weaker roster last year when RJ Barrett was chucking up 30 shots a game, and they beat the Cavs, who we thought was a sleeper contender for the finals. Mm-hmm. And the Cavs have gone 16-1 over the last 17 games, and I'm not moved because of the Knicks, because the Knicks are so good. Like, you can't tell me right now that the Cavaliers are going to go in and beat the Knicks right now. I can't say based on what I saw from the Heat. I know they'll be different in the playoffs. Maybe they're a team that could turn it around with Rozier and obviously Triple J, the real Triple J, not Jaren Jackson Jr., Jaime Jaquez Jr. That maybe they could be a team that upsets the Celtics. But I think right now, minimum, the Celtics are in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think the second team's going to be a wild card. It's not going to be Milwaukee. I think the team is going to upset Milwaukee, and at this point of the season, I think it's probably the Knicks.
Yeah, but so right now, as we currently stand, it's February 10th. The Cavs are the 2 seed, which is crazy because they were in the play-in situation not too long ago. They're 34-16, 16-1 in the last 17. The Knicks, they're right behind the Bucks, and the Bucks have been really bad. I mean, even defensively, they're middle of the pack. I'm even surprised they're middle of the pack. The Knicks have even been banged up a little bit, and they continue to roll. The addition of OG Anunoby has completely changed that Knicks team. And I thought that giving up Barrett and giving up quickly, you'd take away a lot of offense. But ever since that happened, Jalen Brunson has honestly taken another step. And they've been without Julius Randle, too. Adding a shooter, that's what they needed. They needed another guy that, if Brunson's doubled, We saw that when the Lakers doubled Brunson, there was literally no one when Julius Randle's out. They needed a guy to be a spot-up shooter like Bojan Bogdanovic. Not just him, but Alec Burks, who can create as well. Bogdanovic is an underrated defender. I love this Knicks roster. I love Jalen Brunson. And I hate to say this, but Julius Randle is pretty crucial to that team because I saw them play without him against the Lakers, and they could not do anything. I mean, Brunson was being doubled, and Josh Hart couldn't step up. DiVincenzo couldn't step up. They need to have another wing-type guy like Randle.
But now they have Bojan.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing. So now you have two major options, which you can
who
go to
both shoot 40+% from three.
It's much like when you have a lot of talent, like 4 stars. If 2 guys are off, fine. Bogdanovic can go on a heater and give
Bogdanovic can give you 40
right,
if you want. Like
DiVincenzo, he's not the prime guy that he was before, but he can still put up 20 plus.
What we're seeing is
and Mitchell Robinson's coming back.
What we're seeing from the Knicks, and what we're seeing with a player on a team that really ascends right in front of our eyes as a role player, as a championship role player, that's what I see in Dante DiVincenzo. Yes. He's becoming kind of, I wouldn't say to the level of Andrew Wiggins to the Warriors, but at least Bruce Brown to the Nuggets. He's becoming that. And we look at all of the champions in recent years, they have that role player that steps up and becomes that guy. That, is pretty good for a few years and then ascends into a championship role player. At this point, DiVincenzo's the guy this year. If I'm looking at all the teams, like we can look at Derek White, he's already a championship role player. And the Celtics are so flooded with superstars that's really an unfair comparison, right? But he's the Bruce Brown, I think, of this year. I think right now the Knicks are definitely a finals contender. They're one of only 2 or 3 teams that have both an offensive and defensive rating in the top 10. I believe the only other 2 teams are the Boston Celtics and Oklahoma City Thunder, who both, by the way, have top 5 in both offense and defense, which is pretty crazy. Chet Holmgren effect for the Thunder. But the Knicks are top 10 in both. When have the Knicks ever been this good offensively? Thibodeau is usually a defensive coach. When was the last time they were this dominant on offense? That's my question. And just they kind of feel like they know the lights are on them, the Mecca's behind them. I haven't seen the culture go this way. Like the Knicks fans are off their rocker, and rightfully so. This might be a team that could do some special things. And I know the Knicks asterisk, we have it. I just said it. The Cowboys, can they actually win? They didn't win with Ewing. They barely won with Walt Frazier in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? Can they do it? I think this is a year they could. They could. The Boston's so good, but I feel like Boston.
There's questions with every team. Even the Celtics, there's questions about how they end games too. Who do they give the ball to? Is Tatum really built for? There's a lot of things with the Celtics that I'm seeing lately where it's like, okay, I just saw this last year in the playoffs. It seems like they haven't matured at all. Even without Porzingis, it looks like they haven't matured. When you take Porzingis out of that lineup, they do not look good. And with the Knicks, I just like teams that are gritty. They get into it on defense. And Brunson's averaging 27 a game. Randall's rebounding at 9.2 rebounds per game. They have a top 10 offensive rating. They have a top 10 defensive rating, like Brandon said. They're shooting middle of the pack from 3-point percentage, but I expect that to go up now that they have Bogdanovic too. So if you're looking at a contender, right? What do you need? A good guy on defense, a good guy on offense.
And you have a superstar.
And a superstar.
And Brunson's becoming that guy. No one wants to say it. I don't, at this point, I don't care about if you're putting up, to be a superstar, you need to put up Embiid numbers, 36 and 11. Well, I don't care if Brunson's putting up only 27 and 7, 27 points, 7 assists, because I know, like I said, I can only name 5 players that I would take at the end of the game to go win me a game than Jalen Brunson right now. That's how dominant he's been in every shape, way, or form. The thing is, he's such an unselfish superstar too. He can go to the rim and go get you buckets, but if they double him, he's so smart. He has probably, I would say, a top 5 IQ in basketball right now. And you mix the talent that's there, the moxie that he has, and the IQ and his skill set, obviously. To me, we're looking at a guy who I think is probably the most underrated player in basketball right now. And I don't think it's crazy to call him one of the 10 superstars in the NBA, because I think right now he's a top 10 basketball player. And I don't think there's really an argument against it.
I agree. And people are going to say, oh, well, what about Donovan Mitchell? What about John Morant when he comes back? When people are putting in their top 10 things, what we're talking about is now. We're not talking about what happened in the past. We're not talking about if this guy's healthy, if he's not. Right now, Jalen Brunson's a top 10 player in the league. And he should have been voted to an all-star starter over Damian Lillard, which is ridiculous. But I want to go to the Cavs real quick because the Cavs have been playing excellent basketball out of nowhere, kind of. Because everyone's kind of like, oh, they lost in the first round last year. Like, let's just push them away. Who cares? Like we said, over these last 17 games, they have been unbelievable. And their offensive rating isn't even that good as a total, but their defensive rating has always been good. They're second in defensive rating. Yeah. They were up there last year, too, in defensive rating.
And that's why we were so high on them. Right. Versatility, defense. But now, what did they not have last year, Grant? What are you about to bring up? Shooting.
They can finally shoot.
They have Niang. And Niang is, I mean, he looks like, your mobster uncle from New Jersey who's about 40 with a beer gut who's living for the next, annual fair in your town. But at the end of the day, he can put up points. He can shoot.
But there's been an emergence of some other player, Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill is shooting the lights out of the ball.
Bucks legend, Sam Merrill.
Dude, I can't believe how
Bucks legend. Yeah. Why didn't the Bucks keep him?
I mean, he's better than Connaughton right now. I'm just saying, he's better than Connaughton. Sam Merrill has emerged for them. Karis LeVert has upped his game as well.
Well, I'm looking at the guy.
Sam Merrill's true shooting percentage.
The guy I'm looking at too, that I think is the difference maker in a series is Mobley. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Mobley. We can talk about Allen. Like Allen's always going to be 10 points, 10 rebounds, right? Like he'll play good defense. If Mobley can start taking his offense to another level throughout the second half, and he's already starting to do it a little bit. I know Mitchell's kind of taking the load there. Pause. But at the end of the day, if Mobley can take his offensive game, he's averaging 16 points right now. He can, up that over the second half of the season and into the playoffs to about 18 to 20. Look out for this team because they're fundamentally sound as well. I mean, Max Strus. Talk about another guy, a championship role player. A guy like last year, he was like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
Now this year, it's DiVincenzo and Strus in the Eastern Conference. Like those are the two guys I'm looking at that are like, and Jaime Jaquez Jr., a championship role player.
The role players.
And you know who is, I want to say this. You know who else is a championship role player? Because I think, by the way, we should just call this segment championship role players because I look in history and this has to be a clip right here because this is so important. No one else is going to talk about this in sports media. Every single year, you look at every team that has won a championship over the past 20 years. There's that one guy, like I said with DiVincenzo, who's a championship role player who ascends into the sky. Bruce Brown last year. Andrew Wiggins to a much higher extent, but even in that series, Otto Porter Jr. was a championship role player. Like, let's be real. The Lakers last year, even though they didn't win a championship, they had Reeves step up, who's a little more than that. I guess that's unfair, but, Rui Hachimura, championship role player. Lonnie Walker, championship role player. Now you're getting guys like Max Strus, DiVincenzo, last year's Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez Jr., championship role player. In the Western Conference, the key to the Thunder, Cason Wallace, championship role player. Bulldog on defense, and I think he's overlooked. And a lot of sports media, we talk about the stars, we talk about the superstars, but I want to dedicate this to the guys that are really underrated. Cason Wallace is a rookie. He's about 20, 21 years old. He's already one of the best on-ball guard defenders in the league, and we knew this coming into the draft. I mean, his comp was a Marcus Smart type guy. But he can shoot. Grant, tell me his shooting percentages right now.
Okay, so over the season, he's shooting 42% from three. He's over 50% from the field.
Okay.
Over his last 5 games, he's been 40% from three. His true shooting is 63.3%.
Unreal for a guard, by the way.
The numbers aren't going to pop out to you if you look at his overall stats. But like you said, Brandon, guys like this are needed. And I think this move to draft him for the Thunder,
that can put him over the edge.
Right. This is kind of a reason why they're doing so well right now.
Look,
because they needed a guy that can just shoot with Shea and Jalen Williams. I mean, even Jalen.
I'm not going to say
we can talk about Jalen Williams.
He was a championship role player. Now he's kind of entering that star territory.
Would you think he's the two, or because Chet Holmgren had a great first half of the season, but he kind of dipped down a little bit. He kind of took a little. He wasn't scoring 20, 30.
You're gonna like my answer. I don't think it's a conversation. I think Williams is by far the second best player on the team right now. I think Chet might be the most impactful with Wallace in a playoff series because Chet's two-way versatility has really turned this into a monster. Because he can really defend the post, he can spot up, shoot threes. But Chet's struggled over the past few months, and he'll get it back. He's young. Might not be this year, but I will guarantee you the Thunder win a championship in the next 5 years. I will guarantee you that. They are just too good. Shea could be the next gen, like, what would you call him? Like, people have said,
I don't know. I can't really.
There's no comparison.
Because here, this is what I like to do. Who's the Harden? Who's the Westbrook? Who's the Durant? Obviously, Durant's Holmgren.
Okay.
Is SGA Westbrook or is he Harden? Like the new version of that old OKC. Or is Jalen Williams Harden? I think Jalen Williams is Harden.
Really? So you think Shea is like Westbrook? Because
Yeah,
Shea's midi is so
right,
good.
and
like
Westbrook's midi used to be
people
really
forget.
good.
People have such like recency bias. They forget like Westbrook was like the best mid-range shooter in the league, or one of them. I think he's better.
More shifty, yeah.
I think he's better.
Westbrook was more athletic, but Shea's more shifty and can get.
I think as an overall basketball player, Shea is going to be better than Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
Now, obviously, stat-wise, he's never going to put up 30, 10, and 10. Like, that's unreal. And I think, Russell Westbrook deserves respect for that because that might never be done in the history of basketball.
Yeah.
And it might be disrespectful to say Shea's going to be better, but I think the way he impacts the game, I think he's a far superior defender, by the way. I do. A lot of people question his defense. But even if you look away from the 2 steals a game, because steals is a bad, because LaMelo Ball averages 2 steals a game.
You can get the ball off of somebody else.
But the team, they all play defense. Shea is a really good defender. He's like, who else gets overlooked defensively? And he's not been great offensively, but it's Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
Excellent defender. And I think that gets overlooked because the Pistons are so bad. Size. Yeah, but Shea is what, 6'4"?
Yeah.
6'4"?
He's tall too.
No, that's not like, Cade is 6'8". 6'7", right? Like, but at the end of the day, Shea can play defense. The Thunder, I know I said earlier in the segment, they get into trouble against a team like the Lakers. They get into trouble against a team like the Wolves, like teams, or not the Wolves, teams like the Clippers or the Mavericks, teams with experience. Cason Wallace could be the difference in them winning a series. And he might be the difference in a series against the Lakers. Because at the end of the day, for the Thunder, so fundamentally sound, there's always going to be that team that ranks first or second in defensive or offensive rating that is a fraud. And I think this year it's the Wolves. The Thunder are the team, like when you said, one of them's winning a series, probably them.
Probably OKC.
Probably
OKC over Minnesota?
Oklahoma City is a better team than Minnesota. Again, tomorrow in the playoffs. Like if we're doing, in my opinion, they've got a better superstar. Shea is better than Anthony Edwards, as much as I like Anthony Edwards.
That's fair.
I think a better 2 at this point. Towns, I can't trust him. He's either can put up 50 points and not care about defense, or he can put up like 5 in a game.
Yeah, it's just
like Williams is one of those guys. He does nothing wrong on the basketball court. Like he's making the right pass, the extra pass. He's switching. The whole team is so fundamentally sound. It would need to be teams would just, to beat him, would need to impose their will, which is why I think the Lakers are a bad matchup because Davis and LeBron can just torch that team, especially with Chet being so young.
Yeah.
I think they could do the same thing against Minnesota. That's what I said. But Cason Wallace, championship role players. Name another guy who you think is like on one of these playoff teams. Like I think PJ Washington now? Mavericks? Or is he too good to be a championship role player? All right, let's hear your
kind of biased, but Amir Coffey.
Amir Coffey, yeah.
Amir Coffey, Terrence Mann, because I watch the Clippers a lot.
What about Norm Powell?
Norm Powell, I feel like he's kind of well known at this point. If I'm looking at guys that are just kind of under the radar, guys that maybe you don't hear on a national broadcast, but on your local broadcast you'll hear about them all the time. Amir Coffey has been excellent. If, like you said, the Mavericks picking up PJ Washington,
huge,
excellent move.
Yeah, but who else on that team? Derek Lively, championship role player.
Too,
but keep going on. Because I wanted to say this, Powell, his whole career's been a championship role player, right? Like he's won a championship being an elite role player.
And now he's shooting over 45% from 3. Because he's basically what they've converted him and Paul George into is kind of like that Rockets team where they had Gerald Green around James Harden and they had Eric Gordon around
PJ Tucker.
Is PJ Tucker?
No, PJ Tucker was actually good back then. The real PJ. Who's the PJ Tucker?
I'd say Amir Coffey is because he can shoot threes.
He can
very
play the
well.
4,
right?
He's like 6'5".
Like that's an emergence that not a lot of people. I mean, obviously Stephen A. Smith had his whole thing about Amir Coffey with his accent on national TV, but not a lot of people are talking about that.
He's good.
When we look at
good.
When we look at superstars, obviously on every contenders, obviously we have a lot to say. Are there any in the Eastern Conference that you're looking? Because we talked
other
about
than
Sam
DiVincenzo
and on the Celtics. Like, is it Pritchard? Like, it's obviously it's Derek White, but Derek White I feel like is a fringe star. I hate to say
You know
that.
who it's
'cause a lot
gonna
of people-
be? You know who it's gonna be? They just got him.
Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks.
No, on the Celtics. You know who it's gonna be? He's already done it.
Xavier Tillman?
He already torched the Lakers in a series last year.
Xavier
What, you think
Tillman?
it's crazy? Xavier Tillman is a great role
No, I'm
player.
not saying he's bad, but I'm not like
It's
it's not
him-
gonna put
it's-
them over
it-
the top.
No, their stars are gonna have to put him over the top.
Who is it? Kata? Kata's been pretty good for them.
Hauser is probably
Yeah.
another guy who's like Sam Merrill. You know, he hits
Kornet?
threes. No, Cornette. No, Cornette's not. If Cornette's playing championship minutes, like that's a problem. Yeah, I mean,
That's why
I
they
like
got
him.
Tillman. Because
That's why they got Tillman.
Yeah.
Tillman is good. Tillman like
like
does all
Tillman.
those little
That's an
things.
underrated
like,
move.
That's underrated. They got him for like virtually nothing. I think that's the guy in the Celtics. If we're going down the list, Bucks. You said
Patrick Beverly?
Probably P-Bev, but again, I don't trust the Bucks. Knicks. We already said DiVincenzo. Cavs, Strus. Who else is even a
Merrill?
competitor in the 76ers?
Sixers.
Buddy Hield, but he doesn't play defense. So I'm looking at that. It's probably D'Anthony Melton's a championship role player, isn't he? Like Moxie, defense, hit the extra shot.
Yeah, but are the Sixers
Kelly
really
Oubre?
contenders in-
Kelly Oubre?
Yeah.
I guess, but I don't consider them a contender. If you go down the list, like the
In
rest,
the West, like
the West, everybody
Denver,
has them.
I mean, Denver. I don't have to. I mean, everyone.
Denver,
Peyton
Peyton
Watson,
Watson and Christian Brown are going to
Yeah.
be the guys this year for them. Like that
Reggie
are
Jackson.
Reggie Jackson's been great. Reggie Jackson cooked the clip. Remember
I
the
know.
Reggie Jackson,
Dude,
DeAndre
okay,
Jordan?
all right,
game?
that's enough.
That's enough. Let's not forget the moment in this Clippers team, this dominant Clippers team, got cooked by Reggie Jackson and DeAndre Jordan early on in the
They
season.
turned back to their 2016.
If the Clippers win the championship, that's going to be so crazy. That it's like, dude, that season that the Clippers won the championship, DeAndre Jordan, and
I don't
Reggie
know if
Jackson
we made an episode
dominated
about that, but when that happened, I felt like I was the lowest I've ever been on the Clippers. I thought like just below the team.
It's like I like both of them, but dude, it's like
And the Clippers are fully healthy.
who was that got shamgodded by Thanasis
Oh,
the other day?
was it?
That was
Leaky-
JT Thor, wasn't it?
Wasn't it Leaky Black?
It was Leaky Black.
I don't know, JT Thor. Maybe.
I think it was
don't know.
JT Thor. Who's number 21?
It was him. It
was-
was JT Thor.
I know my. So I scouted him. I know.
Oh, we
JT
forgot
Thor.
to mention one critical role player. Thanasis Antetokounmpo.
No, come on now. Championship
For
role player?
vibes?
Championship bench warmer, maybe.
Yeah. Hey,
Dude,
the Sham God
you know
was
what's
sick,
crazy?
though.
He did the Sham God, and then she was dancing and stuff on the court. Dude, if he was not Giannis's brother, it would be insane because no one else could do that. No one else could just like be like afterward, like, oh. Sorry, I just accidentally hit the camera. Like, oh.
Wait, how about when we're talking about role players? Do the Suns have anybody that you're like, oh, well, maybe?
I mean, it's Royce O'Neal now.
Not Grayson Allen,
It's probably Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. They have those guys. Allen,
Eric Gordon.
No, I don't trust Eric Gordon.
I know
mean,
Eric
we know Eric Gordon in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Eric Gordon, I mean, our boy James Mayhew, who's one of the best trainers in the world for athletic gains, trains a lot of,
man.
elite athletes. We'll give him a shout out here. He said he was having a conversation with Candace Parker, and he was like, he brought up to Candace, he's like, I think Eric Gordon might be like the losingest basketball player in the history of basketball players. Like everywhere he's ever gone, they've never exceeded
It was
expectations.
Clippers, Pelicans, Rockets, Clippers again.
Yeah, for the
and then-
caliber he is.
Yeah.
Like he's never impacted winning. Like if you think about it, he's never impacted winning. Like if you have him on your team, you're guaranteed to not win a championship.
the closest that he's been was with that Rockets team. That almost
Why do you think I wanted the Lakers to not get him?
The Clippers traded Cam Whitmore for him. So
Basically, what turned it? Well, it shouldn't have been because the Lakers should have never taken Jalen Hood Shafino.
I could go in for about 30 minutes.
Dude,
with that
Jalen Hood Shafino might be a very nice kid. Like I hope, maybe he's
Yeah,
a really nice
we
kid.
gotta
But
be
I mean, the guy
honest.
needs to be sent to Taiwan at this point. I mean, he's never going to be. I mean, maybe
It's a rookie year. I'll give him the benefit.
But
of the doubt.
okay, maybe he's fine on a different team, but like with the spotlight of the Lakers, like I think it's unfair to say, oh, they should have taken Jaime because would Ham have played Jaime? got-
Now he would have because you have Vanderbilt out.
Well, yeah, now, but like the thing with the Lakers is rooks like never play too.
Yeah.
It's another thing. So maybe Hood-Schifino just needs more time. But again, I never thought that was a good pick. I thought Podziemski was the pick there. I thought he was like I'll be honest, Jaime Jaquez I liked, but I at the time I preferred Brandon Podziemski to the Lakers at that pick. I thought he was the perfect fit with
Or
his
Jet
with his
Howard.
perimeter shooting. And his ability to, go. And it turns out Podziemski's great. Another championship role player.
The Lakers
Podziemski.
passed on 3 different guys that they could have
That's the team I want to talk next.
Okay.
Because I think if the Warriors get into the plan,
We said this about the Chiefs.
hold on. I know. The Warriors get into the plan. There's a few teams that I would take them in a playoff series over. I would take them over the Kings. The Kings cannot beat him. Brutal matchup. Brutal matchup. We saw it last year, and you could make the argument the Warriors role players are better this year. Kuminga? Wait. Kuminga's the guy that's the Wiggins of the team a few years ago. Like, Kuminga's turning into, like, not just, he's not a star because we're not going to put that on him, but he's turning into a really excellent basketball player on both ends of the floor. He's only 21 years old, which is crazy. By the way, he should be untouchable in trades because he's the future of the team. That's a team roster-wise, and the West is so good. Like, if Ja was healthy, I'd be like, what do we even say about the West? Every team is good. I mean, Rockets got Şengün, who we thought should be an all-star, like the way he's played this year. Van Fleet's been playing great. Amon Thompson's been playing great. Like, Jalen Green's had up and down moments. Jabari Smith is a good two-way guy. That's the Rockets. They're like 12th in the West, bro. Like, if the Grizzlies actually were healthy, this would be it already is, but imagine how it'd be even better. Like, to me, the Warriors, roster-wise, could go in and beat, maybe Minnesota, maybe not, but, like, they could definitely beat Sacramento or Phoenix.
I'm never going to count them out. Like I said about the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are freaking out.
Well, we said it. We said the Chiefs.
They're like the Warriors. Because I can never count out Steph Curry. They've been playing great recently, too, the Warriors.
Yeah.
If you look at their roster, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some holes. They got rid of Corey Joseph, and they were playing him high minutes. Kuminga has become a mainstay in the rotation, and you still have Andrew Wiggins. You didn't trade him. Klay Thompson has been pretty bad. This is why he's being benched in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Lester Quinones has stepped up.
Puka Nacua.
I mean, I can't believe
Gui
Santos.
That's Puka Nacua.
Yeah. He looks exactly like Puka Nacua.
He does.
It's unfortunate because I don't like anything from the Bay.
Except the Niners.
No. Go Chiefs, kind of. I don't like either of them. But the Warriors, look, Steph Curry's still balling. It's not like he's regressed. Chris Paul is coming back. Chris Paul was a part of the Warriors' best lineups when he was healthy.
He was. I'll give him credit. Chris Paul. We talk about Brunson, his IQ. Like, Chris Paul, it's undoubtedly like he's one of the smartest basketball players in the world.
And Draymond Green has been playing excellent defense. You don't really need his offense anymore. You still have Kevon Looney, who they're not really playing because Trace Jackson Davis is playing good too. It's like they kind of revamped everything and like converted Otto Porter. They could still get Otto Porter Jr., by the way. He's on the buyout market. They've converted everyone from that 2022 championship season into like a younger version of them.
I mean, they're 11-11 without Draymond, but recently,
horrible though.
No, but I think Draymond's important. Like, he's so important to everything. Looney's important. I like Trace Jackson Davis. I think they did an excellent job. Mike Dunleavy did an excellent job with the draft. Podziemski is another guy. That they lost DiVincenzo, and they're like, okay, we'll draft Podziemski, we'll get Trace Jackson Davis, and they're great too. And Moses Moody hasn't even been playing much, and he's good. I think he's pretty good.
I think Thompson this year.
Well, I think Klay is going to play better. I do
too.
And I think once he does, that's like. And look, they're 11th. Like, we look at the Western Conference. I know a lot of this is going to be on the Western Conference because we kind of know the East is like 3, 4, 5 teams. Like, Miami is one of those teams. We'll give them the credit because they went to the finals, and we know they only care about the playoffs. But in the West, like, you're talking about, like, any of the two of these teams will miss the play-in.
No, that's like crazy.
Like the Rockets and Warriors, one of those teams is missing the play-in, at least. And the Jazz. The Jazz are for sure, I think, dropping out. I think the Warriors will probably make the play-in and play the Lakers, like 9. But you're telling me, are the Lakers and Warriors going to be able to catch the Mavericks, who have a few more wins, the Pelicans, the Kings? Like, this is stacked. The Suns are playing. The Suns are not going to drop out. And for sure, the top 4 are set. I mean, the top 4 are going to be Minnesota, in whatever order. It's going to be Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver, and Clippers. And like I said, preseason, I think Denver is going to win the championship. I think they're going to repeat, and I think they're coming out of the Western Conference. So, I mean, that's always been my pick, and I'm going to stand by it. I think probably the biggest threat is the Clippers. I think they match up the best against them. I know we saw the past and what happened in the past, but the past is the past. Like, the Lakers used to beat the living pulp out of the Nuggets, and now they can't beat them to save their life. And now the Lakers can beat the Clippers.
Yeah, it's like crazy.
It's like a complete turnaround. But like, look, like I mentioned, the Grizzlies. Like, if they had Ja Morant, like, the Grizzlies are a team that could get to the Western Conference Finals next year.
I agree.
Like, they fundamentally, when they have their guys, and Vince talk about championship role player, Grant.
No, not this year.
Not this year. Next year. See, at Baller
And
Sports
Gigi
Dialogue,
Jackson.
at Baller Sports Dialogue, we'll give you some sidekick ability, some that's the place. If you're buying stock in players, Vince Williams is the guy.
And Gigi Jackson, too.
And Gigi Jackson's great. Gigi Jackson's 19 years old. Yeah. I always thought he was pretty good. South Carolina, he was 6'9". Like, people were like, oh, his shooting percentage.
Just got a new contract. Congrats.
Dude, he was 18 years old and playing Division I basketball. He should have been in high school, right? Like, He's good. Vince Williams has the most NBA friendly, like team friendly contract in the NBA. Like they signed him 2 years, like $4 million or something like that, or 3 years, 4 million, something crazy.
Great.
He's already like two-way, excellent. That they felt like because of his versatility, because of Zaire Williams' versatility, and obviously Jaren Jackson, who Grant gives a lot. Offensively, I don't love Jaren Jackson, but defensively, he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, I get it.
They felt like
he fouls a lot.
They felt like Vince Williams and the guys they have are so good and replaceable that they could get rid of Tillman and Adams and be fine. Because people forget they got rid of Adams, which I'm kind of against next year because they're going to need a guy like that, and they still need to pick up a big in free agency. You want to hear who I think they're going to pick up in free agency?
Yes.
Or who they're going to trade for? I think is the perfect fit, perfect complement alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. because you have him playing defense. Jonas Valanciunas again.
Oh,
I think he's the perfect fit because you lose Adams. You want a guy that can extend the floor and shoot a little bit, get rebounds. Now, he's not an excellent defender, but I feel like Jonas's whole career, he's been one of the more underrated players in basketball. Like, obviously we have that joke about Rutherford B. Hayes, and people are like, who the heck is Rutherford B. Hayes? Know your presidents. He was president of the United States post-Civil War, like, what was it, 1872? When was he president? 1872? I better be right. This is my guy.
I can't believe we're doing the Rutherford.
Hold on. When was he president? 1872?
No.
No, that's when he died and when he was born, not when he was president. He didn't live that long, poor guy. He was president from 1877. So I was 5 years off. I'm sorry. 1877, 1881.
So are you saying that Valanciunas is the Rutherford B. Hayes of the NBA?
Yes. I think Rutherford B. Hayes.
But he was known for being a choker.
Ooh, Rutherford
fraudulent.
B. Hayes?
There's like a thing. If you look up
no, so is Valanciunas. They say the same thing. Probably the most
like fraudulent election.
No, come on. Everything was rigged back then. It was freaking 1877.
I'm just saying,
dude. They didn't even allow some people to vote back then. They didn't allow women to vote. They didn't allow
if you look up his name and you go to images,
that he was a president in a tough time, just like Valanciunas is playing center in the NBA at a tough time. Valanciunas. Stop. Fraud of the
stolen election of 1876. I'm just saying.
I think Rutherford B. Hayes, he went into presidency at a time when there was a lot of turmoil, post-Civil War stuff. He was trying to appease a lot of people.
Doing this?
No, hold on. He was trying to appease a lot of people, and he couldn't get it done. Couldn't get a lot done because he was anti-slavery, and there were still a lot of powerful people that were pro-slavery. And that, at the end of the day, he couldn't get much done because domestically everything was a mess post-Civil War. There's still racist people, but back then the people still were like, okay, let's they still wanted slaves. Now it's like, okay, if someone says that, like, put them in a loony hospital.
Are
for
you
like
telling
20
me
years.
that Valanciunas is going to be a political figure if he goes to
No, I'm saying that
I'm trying to see
Rutherford B. Hayes was
fundamentally sound.
No, yes, but there's a misconception about him. And if he was president at a different time, he would have excelled. And I say the same thing about Valanciunas because Valanciunas, there's a misconception, like, dude, the dude is he shot 47% from three a few years ago. He rebounds at an elite level. They only play him 22 minutes a game. His true shooting percentage is one of the highest statistically of all time for a career at a center position. If you put him in the 90s, he's one of the best players in the NBA. I stand by it. Like, his true shooting percentage every year is over 62. Every
64.
year. This year, 64. He's playing, how many minutes a game? Look at his per minute basis. So what I'm saying is Valanciunas is like former President Rutherford B. Hayes in the sense that if you went back in time, if you put him in a different generation, like you would love Rutherford B. Hayes to be president today. Like, let's be real.
I would?
Yes.
I mean, there's not many good candidates now. So.
he's dead. Is dead man better than the guys that are president right now? Or are going to be running for president? We won't get into politics.
We do a political podcast.
But I mean, we won't get into it. But at the end of the
I see your point, though.
But you know what I mean? Like, he was president in a time where there was a lot of turmoil, and he couldn't get much done because of that. I think playing center in today's NBA and having his skill set, but being like his body type at 7'1", like, people want the center to be like Davis, like 6'10", but lanky. Long and lengthy. Like, he looks like a mountain man. Like, he's 7'1", but he can shoot threes. But they have to play him center because he's not quick enough to play the four.
Yeah.
So I feel like if he was just like Rutherford B. Hayes in a different generation, he would excel. That's my point there.
Yeah, and I was getting, like, as soon as you said that, I was like, you know who else would have been really good in today's NBA? Andres Karolinko. AK-47.
Yeah, switch them. So you put Valanciunas back, you put Karolinko's like the perfect modern five, right?
There's some players that are just built for a different era.
No. What about no perfect like 3 or 4? My bad. I'm thinking of Bargnani. Remember him?
Yeah,
Bargnani would be great today.
And like Ryan Anderson.
Ryan Anderson was sick. People forget about him.
I can't believe that.
That championship
There's so many
role players.
Yeah, these role players, like there's some guys that are built for different eras.
Imagine Stojakovic today.
Oh, dude.
Stojakovic today. Dude, he would average 30 a game in today's NBA. Stojakovic was nasty, bro. What about, you know who I think is an overlooked guy too? And I know we're getting a little off topic here. Pete Maravich. Pete Maravich was arguably the best college basketball player in history. If you look at his stats at LSU, it was like 33 points per game, 38 points per game, 39 points per game. He went into the NBA, had an excellent career, was so ahead of his time. He actually died on a basketball court. Very sad. He died playing basketball. I think it was in Pasadena. I think it was here in like his 50s. Like he died super young. Hall of Famer, obviously, but everybody. Look, there should be levels to the Hall of Fame, by the way. Everybody gets in the Hall of Fame. Your uncle gets into the Hall of Fame in the NBA. It's the most unexclusive, like, Hall of Fame in sports, which really annoys me. There should be levels. Pete Maravich is a top, 40 player in NBA history, probably top 35, in my opinion. Another guy underrated, forgotten about. There's so many of those guys. Like, if he played today, oh, my God. I mean, even John Stockton today versus, 20 years ago. Like, dude, Karl Malone couldn't be Karl Malone in today's NBA. No. Like, let's be real. Like, the way he played, you see how big he is? I mean,
even, Patrick... if we go to, guys from the 90s...
Patrick Ewing couldn't survive in today's NBA as good as he is. Maybe the guys that defy it are Shaq. Because he's so dominant that you're okay, he's like Embiid. But Embiid has had to learn how to shoot threes, and he's become excellent at it. Embiid, he wouldn't be an MVP if he couldn't shoot. You can't just, look at what happened
to develop the shot. Jokic.
Yeah, Jokic had to. He had to survive.
Giannis still hasn't.
He had to survive. You know, another guy, if we're talking Jokic, you know who he's the father of a current NBA player. He would have been a superstar in today's NBA. Arvydas Sabonis would have been better than Domantas Sabonis, for sure.
So freaking
Arvydas created what Jokic
came
is
over
doing.
too late from overseas.
Well, I think Kukoc is another guy that would dominate in today's NBA.
Yeah.
Remember they were calling, in the Last Dance, Kukoc was that guy. Kukoc,
Pause, by the way.
He was that guy. I know, well, because his name, what is it, Kukoc or Kukoc? Kukoc. Oh, yeah, the Lil Uzi Vert song. What does he say? Tony Kukoc. You know that song? You know what I'm saying in the chorus?
No, I think Rutherford B. Hayes said that.
No, it was for sure Lil Uzi Vert. He said Tony Kukoc. Lil Uzi Vert.
Yeah, you mentioned, even
those so many guys that
Zubats
would have dominated in the 80s, the 90s. Yeah,
he would be one of the highest dominated. He'd be on the dream team.
What about a guy like Vernon Carney Jr.?
Yeah,
he entered the NBA.
Steve Smith Sr.
Yeah, he entered the NBA. Vernon, is it Carey or Carney? Vernon Carey, right? His dad played in the NFL, no?
Steve Smith was a sharpshooter.
Yeah, Vernon Carey Jr. I mean, this guy is a guy who is dominant in the post. 6'10", just elite post game. Can't survive in the NBA because he can't shoot. That's kind of the name of the game. I feel bad about it, but the game's changed. Steph Curry has completely changed forever. Yeah. And now we have Steph Curry clones.
Also that you have centers that are bringing the ball up the court as a point guard.
Well, no one's Victor.
Who would have ever thought?
It's just one guy.
No, Jokic. Jokic is basically a point guard.
There's a few, but
these guys are playing like guards.
They're
7 feet tall.
And what about Alexander Sarr, the next up?
You're right.
Alexander Sarr. I mean, and by the way, this draft class is probably the worst draft class in NBA history.
This is why a lot of teams shouldn't have tanked as hard as they should have.
This year,
nobody to get.
The Pistons need Sarr more than anything. I think the Pistons need him, and everybody else is kind of going to be fine. This draft class is so weak. I think there's one player, it's Alexander Sarr. Right now, I still have to do my evaluations and everything for this class. There's guys I like I like Collier from USC, but he's kind of raw. Oh, there's two players. The second guy, Jalen Williams' brother, is really good. Cody Williams.
Really?
He's supposed to be drafted second. He's basically a carbon copy of Jalen Williams. He's really good. So there's 2 or 3 good players. I think this is going to be one of those drafts where you see guys there'll be a lot of Georges Niangs. Or Corey Kispers, a role player. But you said it last year. Grant Mona was the first person to say it in sports media that there's for teams that are on the cusp of being good.
And who was it? Derek Lively,
and Jarris Walker, who hasn't even gotten a minute, or Taylor Hendricks, who I like. By the way, Utah needs to play Taylor Hendricks. That guy's a stud, by the way. Taylor Hendricks is
Yeah,
good.
why is he not
Why
playing?
is he not playing? They're playing Keontae George, who we knew was
Keontae
good,
George
but like
is good.
Taylor Hendricks like was being considered with the 4th overall pick because he's good,
Cam Whitmore,
and he's
too.
not playing. I mean, there's so
fell,
last year's
too.
class is just unreal. Last year's class is like let's throw
Even
it out
the year
the window.
before was really good.
Yeah, year before was great. I mean, we were on a
Brandon
great run.
Miller right now.
Brandon Miller's balling.
Do you still think Brandon Miller's going to be better than, or Scoot's going to be better than Brandon Miller? Come on, man. Look at what Brandon Miller looks like. Paul George out, like
He
prime
does.
Paul
He does.
George.
But I think Scoot. I mean, Scoot is so young, dude.
Yeah.
Scoot is gonna. Scoot
I'm
is
not
like.
saying that these guys are bad, but I'm saying like I think Brandon Miller has the ability to be.
I
Better.
think Brandon Miller's skill set, and I've always said this, fits the NBA modern more than Scoot.
Yes.
Because Scoot is just like Russell Westbrook, like young,
Yeah.
like Jay Ivey.
not a bad thing.
It's not a bad. I think Scoot's still going to be a star. Like I do, star to superstar. Like I think he's like he had 30 points the other day and like 20 shots. Like he did.
Well, sometimes he does that, and then sometimes he puts up.
But the
theater-
thing is, he's
or,
young,
movie
dude.
dates,
He's
like-
young. So many guys like Darius Garland was the worst player in the NBA his first 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like it
Some guys
takes
are late
time.
bloomers.
Brandon Miller's skill set because he's 6'9" and can shoot. Like I've always been
Great,
really high
too.
on Brandon Miller. In fact, I thought he was the second best player in this draft above Scoot early on.
I disagreed
and then,
with the pick,
and then-
but I'm eating my words. Right
yeah,
now.
I disagreed with it. I actually still think no, I disagree. I think it was a bad pick. You know why? You know why it was a bad pick? Because he deserves to be somewhere better. That's why it's a bad pick. That's why I said it at the time.
for Charlotte, like
I feel like they needed Scoot because LaMelo's always hurt. So I feel like they need a guard that can go in there and just control that. Scoot would be unreal in Charlotte right now. Like unreal if he just had the ball in his hand.
yeah, because Lamelo's always hurt.
I mean, Portland has guys, bro. Like we act like Portland's not good. Like Portland's got Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah,
They've got
I know, why.
Anthony Simons. Like Scoot will never develop with Simons, Sharp, and Malcolm Brogdon there. If you put Scoot on the Hornets right now, he's already averaging 18 points per game this year. Like
Lamelo's always injured.
yeah, that's why I thought at the time Scoot was the pick, and I stand by it. Like I think Miller. Look, you have to
The
understand.
point guard wing combo.
Exactly. Like their wings, like Brandon Miller, are a dime a dozen, right?
Right.
And guys like point guards are like there's a point guard in every draft. There's not a Brandon Miller in every draft. You know what I'm saying? There's like it's becoming like that's such a
Well, wings are so valuable.
versatile wings like Brandon Miller who
Yeah.
can shoot threes, defend at a high level are so coveted in today's NBA. That's like that's like being a shooting guard in the 80s and 90s with like Jordan and like then Kobe came into the league in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what it's become with like the Paul George-ass players. Miller's great, and I think that obviously I thought he would be very good. I still stand by they should have drafted Scoot just because I don't think LaMelo is a winner. Like I don't think I think eventually they're gonna have to move on from him, and I think that would be a great place for Scoot to just kind of be himself. I think that at the end of the day, and no one wants to talk about this, they want to talk about stats and how bad guys are. Like, he needs a chance. Like, Simons is averaging 25 a game, dude. Like, how is Scoot going to run an offense and learn how to be like a Westbrook
And
if
they're
he's
using
not like...
Simons basically as a point
And
guard.
look, how was Miller when LaMelo was healthy? And when they had Miles Bridges and when they had PJ, all healthy. He wasn't that good. Because now he has the ball in his hands. He can develop. Like, that's
their guy.
everybody. I like Miller. Like, this is a false concept where I said, I made a video on TikTok saying the Hornets made a mistake by selecting Brandon Miller that they're going to regret. I stand by it because I don't think they're going to be good because they're such a bad culture.
I think what's going to happen is they're going to move LaMelo Ball.
They have to. And that's why I said they should draft Scoot because they need a guy that can just go in. They need the next Westbrook.
Because if
they
Brandon,
need a guy
if
who can
Brandon
just go,
Miller keeps playing like this, you have to make him the main guy. Because
Yeah.
LaMelo Ball is good when he's healthy, but he has missed so much time, dude.
But
Like,
does he
much.
impact winning at a high level?
I don't know because I haven't seen him on a
Like he
decent
doesn't.
team.
I don't think he impacts winning the way Lonzo does because he can't play defense the way Lonzo does. He
Very
can't
fair.
like you know what I'm saying. He jacks up shots. He plays like Trae Young. Like LaMelo Ball is like exactly like Trae Young. Like I like Trae Young. I think he's a great basketball player on offense. You can never win a championship with him as your best player. You just can't. You just can't because he's so like the way if you build around him, you have to give up like 145 points per game.
I think if the Warriors would have taken him over Wiseman, I think he would have been a better basketball player.
100%. I think he would have been a
Because he would have just
superstar.
learned how to win.
Yeah,
Like now he's just chuck up a three.
He would have been.
from
And
the
imagine
elbow, like-
LaMelo and Kuminga as the next gen.
dude.
That would have been crazy.
That's an all-time.
But I'm just saying, like a lot of it is fit, and I think that's why at the time I was saying, first of all, LaMelo and Scoot can coexist because LaMelo can shoot, and Scoot could play guard. I think they could have, but also the injuries is why I said Scoot should go too. And I still think Scoot's going to be a star. I really do, especially if he gets the keys. I mean, there's guys we look at. We're so quick to write guys off. Yeah. Like, look at his recent games. The stats won't, like, 48 true shooting percentage is terrible. It's awful. He had an abysmal start to the year. Look at the recent games that he's been playing. Like, he's been good, dude. Like, he can play basketball.
Over his past 5 games, I mean, he's shooting really well from 3 too. Like,
yeah,
it's not
like he's
just-
good. He just needs time. And look, these aren't even 22 minutes a game. He's still putting up numbers. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, he still put up 22, 15.
19,
He hit
11.
33, 9, and 7 the other day. Like, and the reason why I say this is Charlotte has a team where now Brandon Miller's kind of screwed because he's really the only fundamentally gifted basketball player they have besides Miles Bridges. Like, everyone else is kind of there.
And Miles Bridges on a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
too,
and he's not going to
so
come back. I mean, I don't think they're going to re-sign him.
he's going to warrant a lot of money. Like,
well, but I mean, he also beat his wife, so I mean, you got to understand, like, he's not going to.
Obviously, that hasn't stopped him from being on a team,
Well, the Lakers didn't get him. Like, the Clippers weren't going to get him. There are teams that will not get him because he beat his wife. Like, to me, like, Miles Bridges is a great basketball player, but to me, if I'm a GM, I don't want Miles Bridges on my team.
So maybe he will go back to Charlotte.
He might,
the only one to
because
give
they
him
don't
a
care.
chance.
They have a bunch of like criminals on their team. I hate to say it. I mean, it's like they're like the modern day Jailblazers, except they don't win. The Jailblazers won. They have guys like shoplifting and like Book Knight, and Kai Jones is a Looney Tune. Oh, they did. Well, okay, that's one less criminal on their team. Remember the memes of Book Knight and Bridges and all of them in the. Brandon Miller hit a murder weapon. We're forgetting about this.
I did forget.
Whether he knew or not is beside the point. You telling me the guy, now he might be a great kid, he might have made a mistake, and Miles Bridges might never beat his wife again, might have made a mistake, okay? I'm not trying to say they're just terrible people. People make mistakes. I don't like Miles Bridges. I don't like how he beat his wife. I would never want him on my basketball team. I think he's a low character guy, personally. Brandon Miller, he says he doesn't know anything about the gun. Let's be real. What do you think your teammate was going to do when he asked for that gun?
Yeah.
What did you think your teammate? No. What do you think your teammate's going to do when he asks for his gun back? When he's angry and wants to go see someone that
I would not give it to him.
Exactly. You call the police. You do something. Like, dude, like, to me, like, okay, that they have a culture of, like, basically.
Even Malik Monk, when Malik Monk was on the Hornets, he got caught with, like, cocaine or something.
Like, and people are going to play the race card and be like, oh, we're only saying that because they're black. Like, dude, they've committed legitimate crimes, or they've been, like,
we're not making this up.
There's just a bad, and then they're posting on social, like, them with, like, iced out chains and stuff. When they lose every game, they've got low character guys and criminals on their team, and you got LaMelo Ball. Hold on. You got LaMelo Ball calling after Cam Whitmore common foul, calling him a we won't say it, but after a common foul, he's like, you're a little bitch, you're a little, this, like, blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? These guys are head cases,
and it's crazy because Steve Clifford's a good coach.
But hold on, I think that if Scoot went there, you could build around him and change it, because I think he's locked in. Like, the thing is, what I like about Scoot, the guy, I've loved him ever since I read that he would put his phone away. He never looks at his phone when it's time to grind, ever. He's locked in. Wemby too. Those guys are locked in. Miller, maybe he's locked in. Miller's just talented.
Yeah, he is.
Like, but I think Miller also, like, would be, I feel like he'd be able to excel, on another team more so. Like, I
just think the Hornets' culture is terrible.
It is. I mean, it's the worst in basketball.
I mean, they were losing by 30, and they were just joking on the bench and laughing it up. It's like, even Steve Clifford said, like, I don't think it's our effort, it's just the talent that we have. Like, we need more. We're under-talented. That's what Steve Clifford said. So I don't know, like, what are you going to get in the draft this year now that you're terrible again?
Well, if you don't get Sarr,
who's that culture changer?
I mean, look, you don't have one. I mean, that's why I wanted them to draft Scoot. Now, Miller's a great basketball player, but he's got some character issues. There's no doubt about it. Just on what people are saying, oh, he's a great guy. Well, he also maybe made a mistake, but there were some things to consider there. And with the culture they had, getting a guy that polarizing with what happened during last season, then him doing the gun celebration after.
Oh, man.
I mean, look, he's a young kid. Like,
Yeah,
but like at the end of the day, I would have wanted a guy that I know is locked. I mean, that's me personally. Again, like, people can agree to disagree. Miller's obviously the better player as we speak right now, but by far. But I think, like, for that culture, I think Scoot is necessary. Now, if we look at he's great. Looks like Paul George. Of course, you're a fan of him.
Wow.
He's Paul, and he's also gonna, like, choke and do some crazy shots and brick him in big moments like Paul George too.
He's a future Clipper.
He might be a future Clipper.
No.
So this draft has Sarr going lower. Sarr's gonna go 1. if Detroit gets the first pick, now this is interesting. What do you do? Because Sarr's a big. He's kind of a stretch big. He's Jaren Jackson Jr. is his comp, I would say. I want to know what you would do if you're Detroit. Do you go Cody Williams, who's a wing? Probably fits better with Ivy, or you go Sarr.
What about Rob Dillingham?
And he's not going to go that high. He's not going to go that high. He's good, but he's small. He's small.
He's like
he's
Sue
small.
Henderson.
Yeah, but he's not going to go that high. Where do they have him? 6?
Yeah.
That's how bad the draft is. I have
That's
no offense to
crazy.
Rob Dillingham. I mean, they have like Kyle Filipowski going 11th, bro. Kyle Filipowski wouldn't even be the 45th pick last year if he had like went out as good as he is. Zach Edey, this draft is so bad. Zach Edey might get picked in the first round.
Is he even on that board?
Probably. Yeah, dude. Let's see. Where is he? Probably. Well, this draft,
Still
he is
not.
going to go in the. Well, he's going to go in top. He's going to be a top guy.
Tell you
Collier's
what.
dropping. I like Collier. I like Nikola Topic. There's
a lot of
always a
people do.
Nikola. He's good.
There's always a
He's good. I told you
Nikola
about
and
him
an
early.
itch.
I mean, like, dude, like this guy, Wooga Poplar. Who the heck is this guy? Like, I mean, I've seen his tape, but like, this guy is a top 10 pick. Oh my gosh! Like,
He's falling off the screen. That's how.
Exactly. I mean, look, like this
Yeah,
guy.
I don't think that the talent is so like this is why I always never understood why didn't the Spurs go for it and try to get Reeves and try to like get a point guard at the trade deadline.
Well,
the lottery sucks.
Strategically,
Who cares
what
about
they
your
should have
pick?
done is they should have given Reeves a max and then
Oh my
made the
God,
Lakers
this is
match
an
it.
all-time bad decision.
Well, because they should have had the Lakers match it.
Right.
Because then
and
you
then
cap the
you
Lakers.
handcuff them.
Handcuff them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just don't get it.
But look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of great teams. Who else are we missing?
Well, Phoenix, but we know we didn't really talk a lot about Phoenix. We didn't talk about New Orleans.
Okay, let me tell you, who's the best player in Phoenix?
Kevin Durant.
Wrong.
Devin Booker?
I think it's Devin Booker.
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant
Better-
scores
better-
60 points in a game this year.
No, but I've seen him do it in the playoffs. Not 60, but I've seen him do really well.
Booker was great in the playoffs last
year.
year. I know, but Booker was great in the playoffs last year. He averaged like 40 a game. I think Devin Booker is the best player in the Suns.
I disagree.
I think for them to get far, they need to make Booker the number one
I
guy.
disagree.
Really?
You're telling me that they're going to... Like, if Devin Booker was just with Bradley Beal, with no Kevin Durant, you think that he could carry that team?
No, you need Kevin Durant.
I think without Booker, that Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal could carry that team. That's how...
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
We've seen Kevin Durant. Harden and Kyrie got injured, and Kevin Durant almost single-handedly brought the Nets past the Bucks by this much on the line in 2021. By himself, he did almost without Harden and Kyrie.
Yes,
And now I feel like he's more efficient.
he is, and it helps that he has two really good players next to him.
And he's playing center sometimes, defending
Book is playing
guys.
point guard a lot of the time. Book is shooting well. Like,
I'm not saying Devin
like,
Booker's
look at Devin
bad.
Booker's
I'm just
numbers.
saying,
I know people.
I think Kevin Durant
I'm
is
going
more
against the norm.
impactful.
I think right now Devin Booker is the best player on the Phoenix Suns.
Okay, that's fine.
I just think right now he's the best player on the Phoenix Suns. I think right now if you make him the number one guy for the playoffs, you can get far.
I disagree.
Who was the number one guy in their playoff run in 2021? Devin Booker.
DeAndre.
It was Devin Booker. Okay. Who wasn't on that team? Durant. Okay. Durant was on the team last year,
Yeah.
and he was great. But Booker was better in the
Why don't
playoffs.
you go to Game 6?
Okay, that's one game. That's
That's
one
a
game.
pretty
Booker was
crucial
better.
freaking game.
Booker does suck in elimination games, but Booker is the best player of the Suns.
and
100%.
he gets bullied on defense too. Kevin Durant can hold his own against some guys.
Kevin Durant is 34, though. He won't be able to hold his. You don't want him trying to play defense the whole game, bro. Like, he's old. You don't want him to play defense. He's had numerous injuries. You don't want. My point here is you don't want Kevin Durant to have to carry you because of the Achilles injury. You don't want him to have to try and
Well, of
LeBron
course
it.
you don't want to have to, but I think he can. Like Booker was out against Utah the other night, and Durant just absolutely obliterated Utah without him
And when Durant's out, Booker can get 60.
and lose because I've seen it before.
It's not his fault they lost, though.
I'm just saying Kevin Durant's more impactful to the Suns than Devin Booker is. That's
I disagree.
That's okay.
I think it's Book. We can agree to disagree. I mean, most people will agree with you. They'll look at like, oh, Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant has
top
more
50
points
player
per
all
game.
time.
He has more rebounds per game. His true shooting's higher.
He doesn't have more assists per game.
Okay, because he's not a point guard.
Look,
He's always close. He's averaging 6 assists per game. Yes, he is. I mean, and defensively, he's been better than.
Go down.
What?
He's shooting 46% from three. All right, I'll change my mind. Durant is their best player. You're right. Once I didn't know he was shooting
Higher free throw
46%
percentage,
from three.
higher 3-point percentage, higher true shooting percentage, higher points per game.
Rarely. Well, I stand by my take. How they're to win a championship, Book is gonna have to step up and be the number one guy. I stand by that. And Durant's gonna have to be a very efficient 25+ point per game too, in my opinion. I don't think it can be vice versa. Because he's getting older, he gets exhausted. We saw that last year. He had that injury, remember?
Yeah.
Like he was not 100% in a few of those games. But I will stand by it. Their best player, you're right. Rarely are you going to change my mind on camera, but I'm just looking at those stats is like kind of crazy. I've watched it. I've watched him cook.
Yeah, like
maybe I'm not seeing enough of the Booker 16-point games. Like I'm watching only the 60-point games.
There's sometimes where he just lets Kevin Durant do what he does, and it's like, okay.
Well, vice versa. I mean, they're good.
No, I'm not saying that Booker's bad. I'm just saying Kevin Durant's the key to that team winning a title.
For sure. I don't disagree. But
Pelicans quick. Really quick.
Pelicans?
Peliquin Snyder.
Yeah.
Do you like? Is this just another instance of okay? Well, we're gonna have to wait until the playoffs because
this is what scares me about the Pelicans.
They have size,
and they not just they have Valanciunas. They need to play him. They need to play Valanciunas more minutes first off. But let's look at.
I agree with you.
Let's look at Zion's stats.
Oh,
this is the key. Well, you think he's been good? I think he's been bad for most of the year.
Well, he's been better than he was last year because he's playing more. He's playing more games. Okay. Which is a good sign for them.
I'm sorry, 22 points per game for Zion Williamson is ridiculous.
It's not that, it's the rebounds. Look at how many rebounds he's
5.5.
What?
With his athleticism. I know he's only 6'6". He was at how many rebounds he's never been like a 9-10 rebound game. He should. But let's look at his career stats. Because I know he's playing more this year, and Ingram's been playing great, and they have guys. But if we're looking at this statistically, for the Pelicans to truly reach their potential, like last year, Zion was way better before he got hurt. He's playing differently this year. He's not demanding the ball as much. He's lazier this year. Maybe that's why he's staying like healthy because he went too hard last year and got hurt. Because they were 25 and freaking 12 or something. Like they were the first seed in the West, and he was excellent. He is a fragment of that player last year, and that concerns me if I'm the Pelicans because he needs to be that if they're going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
We know Ingram's going to put up like 25, 30 a game in the playoffs. We know CJ is going to be hit or miss. We know Valanciunas is going to be productive. We know Herb Jones is going to be playing elite defense. But is that enough? Not unless Zion's averaging close to 30 a game. Look at this. So in his career, you want to just look at the stats here for a sec. Last year before he got hurt, 27 points per game, 7 rebounds. Okay. Or 20. By the way, sorry. That was his second year when he played 61 games. My bad. 27 points, 7.2 rebounds per game. And he scored about, what was it? How many points? 1,700 points that year in 61 games, which is insane. Okay. Like his true shooting percentage was well over 60. His field goal percentage was 61 by itself.
27 points.
Look at the regression here. Last year, 29 games. He was still great. He looked like the same player. 26 points, 7 rebounds, 4.6 assists, okay? Turned the ball over a lot, 3.4, whatever.
29 games. Only 29 games.
Yeah, but still, okay? 60% from the floor. This year, 22 points per game, 5.8 rebounds. Joking me? 5.8 rebounds? And he's shooting 58% from the floor, which is still great, but for him, with how many shots he takes at the basket, if we look at the advanced metrics, he's worse at the basket this year than he's ever been.
That's unbelievable.
He's worse. Let's look at his PSA. Let's go in cleaning the glass because we have that advanced stats site. Let's look before we leave right here. Let me look at this again. You can clip this. His PSA is the worst of his career. His points per 100 shot attempts, worst of his career so far, which is 124.8, 62nd percentile. His previous 3 seasons, he was at least in the 70th percentile or more, okay? Now we look at the shooting efficiency. Like I already mentioned, shooting accuracy is already the worst of his career, okay? The worst of his career. I don't think he's shooting over 60% at the rim this year. Like, I don't think so. I can check right now. I mean, this thing is loading, but I don't think he's shooting 60%. he was shooting 70% at the rim in his career before. Like, he was shooting 70%.
That's crazy.
Like, that's insane. Like,
shooting
he's
60%
from the floor,
Yeah.
but I'm saying at the rim. At the rim is completely different. Like, let's pull this up real quick. Say what you want about him, but I don't trust him. And I'll get this clip with this.
I just think that the Pelicans this year, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Like, if they made a move for DeJounte Murray and they were on it, if they made a move for DeJounte Murray, I could say yes. But CJ McCollum has been really good from the three this year. Brandon Ingram has been still pretty good, but I have my questions about him as well. His health being the main thing. I think for this team, Valanciunas has been off the charts too. They have physicality and size. They're not even playing some guys that we think could be playing. Jordan Hawkins should be playing right now, and he's not. Herb Jones has taken a step. He hasn't improved on his offense at all. Herb Jones. And you have guys like Trey Murphy who are playing excellent too. I don't know if you put them in a playoff series against the Clippers, I think the Pelicans could beat the Clippers. If you put them in a series against Denver, they can compete with Denver. They have the length and the size to compete in the playoffs. I'm not saying that they can knock Denver off or knock Minnesota off. I think Minnesota and New Orleans are kind of similar. But they have they have the physicality and size to compete against some of the best. And maybe that ruffles some feathers. I don't know. Maybe that causes some problems when they get into a playoff series. And they're, I think, 5th or 6th right now, so I expect them to hover around there. But they can give problems to some teams just because of that.
But again, they need Zion to start being what he was. I mean, his EFG has gone down the last 3 years. His shooting percentages at the rim have gone down. I mean, he's shooting about 67% at the rim, which you think is great. It's only the 37th percentile for bigs. It's really bad, actually. And he wasn't astronomically better in years past, but he was 68, 69, 70+%. Like, he was better. He was better from mid-range. His effective field goal percentage was better. He was getting to the rim more effectively. His moves were better and crisper. Now, maybe he's lazy because he's trying to save energy and play the whole season. And last year, obviously, he burned out. And the year before, it took a lot of strain on him. But 2 years ago, he was averaging 27 points per game, 7+ rebounds. 22 points per game this year, abysmal for him, for a superstar of his caliber. 4-5 rebounds a game versus 7, abysmal.
That's crazy.
Now, he is getting like 5 assists a game. His numbers passing the ball are better. But at the end of the day, if the Pelicans truly want to go somewhere this year, Zion Williamson needs to be averaging close to 30 points per game. And if he doesn't, they're not going anywhere. Plain and simple.
I completely agree with you. And I'm so baffled because he looks as healthy as ever, but he's just not putting forth some of the effort on the like, remember at Duke how great he was defensively? If they had that type of Zion, I could say, okay, this team's a contender. I just think that there's something off about the New Orleans team. Like, I don't know if the pieces fit together, if CJ McCollum...
Seems like they don't like each other either.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. It's just that, like, maybe they have too much of one. They have a ton of wings. Like, they have Ingram, Murphy, Herb Jones. Like I said, Jordan Hawkins isn't even playing. I'm not sure about it because sometimes the Pelicans look like the best team in the league. And then, like, in the in-season tournament, when the Lakers whooped them, and they just did recently... Like, why is that? Why? It's like they have lapses sometimes, and I just don't get it with the Pelicans. That's why I don't really believe in them getting deep into the play. Like, last year, they were the 1 seed at one point, and we were like, oh my God, this Pelicans team, they can make a run. This year, they're healthy, and they kind of look like that, and I'm just like, nah, maybe not. Like, I just don't see it from the Pelicans, so...
I'm with you. We'll leave it there. Thank you guys for listening to the Baller Sports Dialogue podcast. It's your co-host, Brandon Deutsch and Grant Mona. We'll be back next week. Appreciate y'all.